Well, in times of war, starting a family can be very difficult. It can pose a real challenge. It's why more couples in Ukraine are turning to sperm freezing in case potential fathers sent to the front don't make it back. Mariel Müller met a new mom whose husband died in battle. She's set on keeping a promise they made together to make him a dad.
He still has the power to make her smile, even from beyond the grave. Natalia fell in love with Yuri after meeting him in a park near the city of Rivne.
He was always laughing. I used to tell him, Yuri, where's the smile? Then I'd say, oh, there it is, he's smiling again. He was such a good man. I always used to say I'd never find another like him, and it turns out there really isn't anyone like him.
They dated for a year. Everything was perfect, Natalia says.
He kept coming to see me all year, always with flowers or gifts. One day he proposed, and I said yes.
When Russia's full-scale invasion began, he left his car mechanic job and joined the army. He knew he'd be sent to the front line. So they married quickly and ended up trying for a baby via artificial insemination. They also froze some sperm, just in case. 2 weeks after Yuri reached the front line, Natalia told him she was pregnant.
I sent him a text to tell him the news. He called me right away, crying. I said, why are you crying? He said, from joy. I told him, congratulations. And he said, congratulations to you too.
Just 2 months later, she got the news she'd hoped would never come. Yuri had been killed on the front line, a sniper's bullet near Donetsk.
I didn't believe that he died. I wouldn't believe it until I saw him. I screamed, I cried, I squealed. I said, that's not him. Then I lost the baby. 9 days after his death, I started bleeding heavily. After everything, I lost it.
She says it was the hardest time of her life. But 2 months after losing Yuri and their unborn baby, she decided to use the sperm they had frozen earlier and try again.
I thought, why should I be alone? I won't be alone. I decided to do what my husband wanted. He really wanted to have a son. I took that second chance. I went through it all. And when I did, it felt like I was reborn.
At a nearby fertility clinic, doctors gave her hope and a number, a 60% chance of success. Natalia was the first woman in Ukraine to try for a baby with her dead husband's sperm, but her doctor at the fertility clinic is sure she won't be the last.
Since the start of the full-scale war, the number of samples has gone up significantly. We now have around 100 samples from military men who've preserved their biological material.
A month ago, Natalia gave birth to her baby, with a close friend by her side.
When he was born, the moment I saw Yuri in him, I felt such relief. It made me feel so good. It's like Yuri is still alive somewhere. The way he folds his hands when he sleeps, the way he smiles, that's Yuri's smile. And I believe I'll manage. Somehow I'll get through this. I'm strong.
Still deep in grief and in the middle of a war, Natalia kept her promise and brought new life into a world filled with loss. For her, Yuri didn't just leave a memory, he left a future.
Well, for more on this, let's bring in our Ukraine correspondent, Nick Connolly in Kyiv. Nick, the Ukrainian government supports artificial insemination with soldiers' sperm. How exactly are they supporting that?
Well, this is about money in first kind of instance, right? This is not a cheap procedure, especially looking after kind of, this bio kind of material for long periods of time, keeping it under the right conditions. Then the actual, later artificial insemination, that is all thousands of dollars, and that is something that is now paid for by the government. We've spoken to clinics who say, yes, it is working. It's not maybe a perfect system. The kind of amounts of money that the government provides don't cover all the full range of services, but lots of these clinics are then offering to do the rest for free at their own cost to help soldiers' families. So it is something that seems to be working, and it's certainly something that is talked about a lot in this country, and is something you see in your social media feeds alongside kind of constant obituaries of soldiers dying at the front lines. You also hear these stories of families of widows left behind having the children of these men who have died at the front line.
What's the government's motivation with this program, Nick?
Look, I think this came from society, from civil society, from these families left behind after losing their loved ones in this war. It also, it has to be said, includes women who are fighting, so women can also give up their eggs to be frozen if they are in a kind of frontline role, or in the police, or in the kind of emergency services. And this is about responding to that kind of desire from Ukrainian society, but it's also about demographics. Ukraine's demographics have been exceedingly difficult for decades now. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the economic situation was very, very difficult. Ukraine saw a lot of emigration, also people having fewer children than they might have wanted to. That situation started recovering in the early 2000s, but then once Russia launched its first attack on Ukraine in 2014, went down again. So just for comparison, basically, in 2010, 13, that period, you had about 500,000 babies born every year in Ukraine. Now that is down to under 200,000. Some of that is about delayed child raising. Some families are just saying we're going to wait till the war is over. Some of it is about the women of child bearing age being abroad as refugees. But certainly there is a real sense that Ukraine, even if it survives this Russian onslaught, which people are convinced it will, could then end up with an incredibly over old population, and would really struggle economically to recover from what is already a very difficult situation. So there's a real push there. In terms of working out how big the real numbers are, it is very difficult. The government isn't giving kind of big statistics. Some of the clinics say they think this is currently still kind of around maybe high hundreds, low thousands a year. But certainly this is something that Ukrainian society has been asking for, and the response when there was a push to only allow these kind of things to be done if the father was still alive but injured, say, that is something that really showed quite how interested society is and how big the push was to allow now women like the mother we saw in that piece to have a child even after the father of the child has died.
Nick, thank you very much. That was Nick Conley in Kyiv.